willing to jump in the mud and be drugged through it. You're willing to do those things, he'll take you. But the people that draw that line in the sand, no, we're not interested. We just keep going. You know, and people are taken off the list, and it's like you have to come back in a certain number of months. And I keep doing that. I keep doing that. And I'm passing up sometimes hundreds of people that all say that. You know, I'm not willing to, I'm not willing to do something with a relative, not willing to do something with a child, not willing to do anything with an animal. And it's like, okay, well, come back when you are. And I just keep going. There was a guy in there that said, he told me up front, I cannot sing. I cannot dance. I cannot write a poem. I cannot write music. I cannot write a song. All right. But I'm still thinking Satan can do something. So what are you willing to do to be famous? Anything. I was like, you got to give me an example of what anything was. And he said, if you put me in a room with a 3-year-old naked girl and a horse, I'm going to have sex with at least one of them. I'll have sex with both of them if I think that's what you want. You're our boy. So while he's there was somebody, we had a Dr. Seuss book that had been there for years. And I had somebody bring me that book, go through the building, try and find that book, bring it back to me. So he brings it back to me and I give it to him. And I said, read me that. So he starts reading a Dr. Seuss book. And just before it rhymes, he closes the book and says, I don't get it. I thought, wow, you can't even make a Dr. Seuss book rhyme. So I give him a card. It's called a Tier 2 card. On one side is the New York skyline. On the other side is a phone number. I said, you call the number on this card, do whatever it is they ask you to do, and I'll see you on MTV in 6 months. Whatever he did, I saw him on MTV and VH1 about 3 months later, singing and dancing in one of the most popular boy bands of the 1990s. Now, I've been told by multiple singers what it is you have to do. And you only have one of 4 options to do. So when you go to there's a hotel in Los Angeles. It looks like a bright, shiny hotel, except that there's almost never any cars at it. They use it for this purpose only. So you go there, you park your car, you go inside, they ask you for your name, you have to give your ID, then they have you sit down for a while in the lobby. Then when they're ready, they make you a key to go to your room. They tell you where your room is, and they give you the key, and you take the elevator up, you go up, and you use that card to get in the door. When you go through the door, up above the door is a camera that faces down. On the table facing you, it's a white diamond-shaped table. On that table is a list of instructions that start at the top of the table and come all the way down to the bottom. There's also a glass bowl with white envelopes in it. The paper tells you your job is to pull out an envelope, open it up, and read what it says to do, and hold it up to the camera behind you so it can see what you have to do. If you don't want to do that one, then you put the contents back in the envelope and close it back up, put it in your back pocket, pull out another envelope and do the same thing and hold that up. If you decide neither one of these options is something you want to do, then you have to leave the room, go downstairs, and hand both of these envelopes into the men behind the desk. At which time you'll be informed, and you're seeing it here in this paper as well, but you'll be informed that you cannot try this again for 3 years. And the reason for that is you made it this far. And if you decide these things are too gross, you don't want to do either one, then for the next 3 years, you see all the new rock stars come out. that could be not as handsome or not as pretty as you, putting out songs that aren't as good as yours, but now they're living in what could have been your mansion and being given millions of dollars that could have been yours. And now they have tons of girlfriends or boyfriends that could have been yours. And they're driving around in a hot car that could have been yours. You could have had all this, but you decided not to. And now you're watching however many rock stars there are in your genre of music having everything that could have been yours, but you turned it down. So a lot of times when that 3 years is up, about half the people decide, I'm going to do it this time. And the other half just learn to live without it, and think, I'm never going to do this. This is the grossest thing ever. So I'm going to give you the 4 things you have to do. And I'm going to give it in the order of what I think is the least gross to the most gross. So the first option, oh, and also, if you pull an envelope and you decide, I can do that one, there'll be a number or a letter on the envelope that's also on a door in the suite you're in. When you go in there, you have 3 hours to do this task. And during that time, you are filmed and they take still photos of you. So if at some point you decide, I'm going to reveal to the world what it is that I had to do, well, they've got video and still photos of you doing that. So, you might think that you're throwing the Illuminati under the bus, but you're as well throwing yourself under the bus. So, the least gross to me, and this is because when I was a kid, we had some of the grossest medicine for colds and flus ever. And I learned that if you tilt your head back and hold your nose, you can just gulp it and that's it. So this one is a large cup that's given to you. It holds about 14 ounces and you're drinking human vomit. And I thought, all right, I might could do that if I held my nose. I could just swallow it all. And it most likely is going to come right back up. But you don't have to drink it again. You just have to do it the one time. The next option is that you have to eat a large bowl of animal feces. I'm pretty sure I could not do that. I mean, it smells like crap because it is crap. And I'm not sticking that in my mouth and swallowing it. But they say you have to empty that bowl. I don't know what size a large bowl of animal feces is, but to me, any size bowl would be too big to swallow. The next option is you have sex with animals. It'll be dogs and cats. Again, you have 3 hours to do this, and you sleep with as many of them as you can in 3 hours. I'm thinking that having sex with a cat would be very dangerous, and you're going to lose a lot of skin. And the last one is you are put in a room with trafficked children, 12 and younger, and told to have sex with as many of them as you can in 3 hours. Now, if you wonder what happens to people that decide they're going to tell what happens and see what happens to them, think Chris Cornell or Chester Bennington, because both of them a few years ago decided that they would tell about the pedophile industry within the music industry. And they were both murdered, but it's called being suicided out. So it makes it look like you committed suicide, but in reality, you were murdered. So I made 1,200 rock stars that did this, but I understand that they still do this. So think of any rock star you know. I know of 4 bands that didn't have to do this. And how I know of these 4 bands is that every 90 days, they knew where we were going to be for the next 90 days. So any band that had ever signed with my coven which meant they also signed with a high wizard through the Illuminati. All those bands you got to go to for free. The only 4 bands that I didn't get to go to for free was U2, Bruce Springsteen, Pink Floyd, and Metallica. Everyone else I got to see for free. Them I had to pay for. And it's possible that one of them could have sold their soul after I left, but I left in 1999. All of them were already millionaires many times over by the time I left. Why would you sell your soul now? You're already famous and rich.
You got a few people asking Zachary whether this is the kind of stuff Diddy was into, and that's how he got his rise to fame.
I think that yeah, P. Diddy would have done that. And my wife says that every time there's a famous person in the news that's caught in a scandal, I look more and more legit. I mean, he's in there for human trafficking and rape and crossing state lines to have sex. And, I've also heard pedophilia, and that's one of the steps in becoming a rock star is having sex with children. But everybody does. There's about 12 years ago or 13 years ago, something like that. I did a talk at the cathedral in Venice, Florida. And I gave a talk like this, and it was youth and adults there. When I was done with the talk, it was time for the Q&A. And all these parents put their hands up and they got called on. And this woman said, "Not Taylor Swift. She's innocent." And I said, "Well, she might be innocent now, but give her some time. She'll eventually be singing songs about promiscuity and practicing magic out in the open and being satanic out in the open." And they're like, "Oh, no, 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 that's never going to happen. She's innocent. She's this, she's that." And I said, "Okay, this is the deal I'll make with you. Whenever she comes out and starts doing these things that I'm talking about, there's like 1,000 of you here. So how about each one of you sends me $1,000? You're all gonna, I mean, this is a rich church. There's a lot of people with money here. $1,000 to a lot of you is going to be like nothing. But if all 1,000 of you send me $1,000, I'll be a millionaire. So how about that?" Now, there was an article that came out, I think last year, and it was in LifeSite News, and it was an interview with Father Dan Real. He's the exorcist in Nashville, Tennessee. And he said that no parent in good conscience can take their child to see Taylor Swift in concert because she practices magic on stage, and that all the demons that are attracted to magic and mortal sin will show up there waiting to see who's there not in a state of grace, which only a Catholic can get into. Protestants can't get in a state of grace except at their baptism. And then as soon as they sin, they don't have a way to go back into it. So they're going to look for all the people that are not in a state of grace and attached to them. And then you're going to take that demon home with you. And depending on what the family is into, you're either going to have some serious oppression or possibly even possession. And, that's an exorcist telling people they can't take their kids. I'm still waiting for my $1 million, by the way.
So, Zachary, how did you extricate yourself from that lifestyle?
Well, I had eventually got tired of what I was seeing. I did 146 assisted abortions. I split a bunch of churches. I did like all the evil under the sun. And after a while, it was like, I'm not necessarily tired of sinning. I'm just tired of what I'm seeing. There's no prostitute that's so pretty that I want to have sex with her anymore. There's no drug that makes me high enough that just a little bit can do it. There's not enough alcohol to make me drunk. I'd almost die of alcohol poisoning by the time I got intoxicated. And I just want to see something different. So I plot my escape. I make an appointment with a satanic doctor and I get on the highway. But instead of getting off on his exit, I kept going. I had plotted my escape for 8 months and I had pilfered money out of my own account. I have two accounts. I have my own account, which has like $265 in it on average. And I also have a satanic account that has about $87 million in it that I'm not allowed to touch. It's just supposed to be there. If I travel to a different town and join another church and buy a house there, the bank president is going to see that I'm worth $87 million. I'm driving a Lamborghini Diablo and I'm buying the biggest mansion, the biggest, most ostentatious mansion in town. So he invites me to join his Baptist church. There's an entire story to go with that, but that $87 million is not mine. I can't do anything with it. If I took money out of that, they would find me. So I'm pilfering money out of my own account very slowly. I'll go to the gas station and take an extra $10 out. I'll go buy some groceries and take an extra 20 out. And I just kept doing things like that for 8 months till I thought I had enough money. Because remember, at this time, by now, I believe in hell. I believe in Satan. And I know that for me to leave this coven and for me to no longer be the high wizard, I have to die. Now, I can commit suicide, I can be murdered, or I can die of natural causes. But no matter which way I go, I end up in hell. I don't want to go to hell. So I plot my escape. I kept going. I ran out of gas. I hitchhiked to the next town. I sold my car for scrap. And I got a Greyhound bus ticket to go into Canada. Now, the reason I chose Canada is because I had only done like one or two spells there. It didn't seem like there were very many Satanists there. So I thought that'll be safe. But at the border, I got rejected. And Greyhound said I could go anywhere I wanted to go. So I opened up an atlas, a US atlas, closed my eyes, put my finger down, and it landed in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I got a ride to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I lived off the grid for 1 year and then back on the grid for 2 years. I bought a car and I tried to get back into Canada. And I got rejected at the border again. And I'm being told, one of my friends called me and he said there's a border crossing near Burlington, Vermont, where you can just drive straight across and there's no guard. Right, I'm going that way. So I'm almost there. I'm about 2 hours away. And I am so tired, I can't keep my eyes open. So I pulled over at a rest stop, spend a couple of hours sleeping. Except when I woke up, it was the next day. And, it's
Looks like he's on the call. I got a call coming in, but his links are in the description box, folks. His Facebook and his YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe or if you've got any questions, he'll be back in a second. Just wait it out. And of course, trigger warning, content this evening has been particularly hard hitting. All right, he's back.
all right. So I wake up, I take care of myself at the rest stop, and I drive back. It's only 2 hours away as the border crossing. As I cross over, this guy pulls me over, searches my car inside and out, top to bottom, and he describes how that he's been trying to get this job for 3 years.
Oops, looks like he's froze again. He'll be back very shortly. And I know there's tons of questions coming in, but Zachary speaks at length, folks, which is what we love when someone gives us a detailed story, a detailed life story. And I think he's back. Let's go.
All right. So this guy is telling me today is his very first day on the job. And I'm thinking, Well, God's got a sense of humor. If I would awake, I could have driven straight across yesterday and been safely in Canada. But now this guy's got me and he rejects me. He sends me back into the States. So I'm worth $18 and I have half a tank of gas. And I drive to Burlington, Vermont. I got a job my first day in town at a bar called Nectar's. I got hired as the dishwasher. And I told him I was willing to do anything. And the guy asked me if I knew how to wash dishes. And I said, I can wash them at home. He goes, same concept. So I got a job as a dishwasher. Then I got a job as a doorman, which is the same as a bouncer, but they call it a doorman. And then I got a job as head of security. Then I got a job as head of security and then the GM of another bar. And then I got a job in the mall at a athletic shoes and apparel called Finish Line. And that was a manager in training. Then I got a job at Sunglass Hut as a GM. And then I got a job in Piercing Pagoda, a jewelry store in the mall. And that was, again, I was the GM. And at this time, I'm doing magic every single day. I am as addicted to magic as a heroin addict is to heroin. And I can't stop. And I did a magic spell one night. The next day, I went to work. And this woman comes up. She wants to buy a pair of gold hoop earrings. And I present her with the best pair based on what she described. And I'm just about to close the deal. And she says, actually, I'm shopping with my daughter. And when I'm done, I'll come back and I'll buy these. And I know when most women say that, they mean, I'm going to go find it cheaper someplace else. But she had an honest face. I knew she was coming back. And sure enough, 3 hours later, this woman comes back. We do the deal. And I've got her money. She's got the gold. And I give her the receipt. And I say, if you call the 800 number on this receipt and take a survey, you might win $1,000. She goes, that's great. I've got something for you too. And she reaches in her purse. And I'm thinking, oh no, she's going to pull out a Jack Chick pamphlet, tell me that I'm sinning, and he dropped to my knees and begged for forgiveness. All this stuff I can't do because I sold my soul to the devil when I was 13. And instead, she pulls out this cheap gold colored piece of tin. I mean, it is so thin that if you held it up to the light, you would see the light right through it. And then she says the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Now, remember, I partied with rock stars. You give a rock star somebody that can write songs and poetry, unlimited booze and drugs, and they will say some strange stuff. Like, if you doubt this, turn on your radio to any top 40 station and just listen to what people say. Back when I escaped from Satanism, the #1 song of the year was Bow It to Bob by Kid Rock. It's like, this is his breakout song. He's about 24 years old. Here's this guy, this skinny white boy dressed like a pimp, bouncing around all over the stage with a black drummer that's got blonde hair. And he's singing. The chorus is bow to ba, to dang, diggy diggy, up jumps the boogie. And it's like, that's the best song you got? That's your breakout song? That's the #1 song of the year? That chorus beat out however many other hundreds of songs came out that year? That was the best one? You're kidding. But what she told me was weirder than that. She said, the Blessed Mother's calling you into her army. And I thought, Blessed Mother, Isis, Gaia, I have no idea who the Blessed Mother is. I grew up Baptist. Mary gave birth to Jesus. Do you know what else she did? Nothing, because all she did was give birth to Jesus. We didn't hear about her and Joseph fleeing to Egypt. And we didn't hear about Jesus' first miracle because he turned water to wine, and Baptists don't believe in drinking. I never knew that that was his first miracle until I became Catholic. So I have no idea who the Blessed Mother is. And then she says, it's very powerful. Well, Protestants don't bless anything. So this woman represents some female deity cult. I'm not interested because so many covens are connected. I don't want to join a coven and then find out that it belongs to my original coven. But I'll take whatever she's got. I'm gonna feel of it, and I'm gonna know that it's worthless. There's no power to this. This can't touch me. There's no mystique to it. I'm gonna take this blessed miraculous metal in my hand, and I'm gonna squeeze it, because back then, if you'd have given me a feather and asked me, what do you feel from that? Well, this had a protection spell put on it. Or you hand me an onyx, and I would feel it and say, oh, this has a death spell attached to it. So I know. Or you hand me something and I say, your friend bought this at Goodwill and made up a story about it. There's nothing with this. So I know whatever I feel is going to be worthless. This isn't anything. This blessed miraculous metal can't touch me. So I know that I'm either going to toss it on my floor or slam it on my counter. And I'm going to tell her it's worthless. And if she wants to get offended, that's fine. And if you want your money back, that's fine. And if you want the regional vice president's phone number so you can call and complain, I make financially my day, my week, my month, my quarter, and my year. My boss is never going to believe that I truly offended you. She's going to think, oh, she didn't like your hair. She didn't like your tie. She didn't like your cologne. She didn't like your suit that day. It's going to be something like that. It's not you personally. And it's not going to affect me. So I stick my hand out and she drops it in my hand and I clench my fist around it because I'm going to tell her this stuff and I don't care what she says. And instead, when I clench my fist around it, my store and my mall completely disappear. They're gone. I'm standing in a darkened void. And this woman, Marianne Wickman, starts telling me about the magic spell I did last night, and that's of the devil. And I've split over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. And I've committed over 100 abortions, and that's of the devil. And she says about 8 or 9 other things, and everything ends with, and that's of the devil. When I first went to this spot, I wanted to hit her with a magic burst, an energy burst, and just knock her back. But at this point, I don't think that's a safe bet. There's generally between 2 and 5 high wizards in the world, but that number could be as low as 1 or as high as 10. I did not have the magical ability to hand somebody a worthless gold-colored piece of tin, transport both of us to a darkened void, and know all of their sins. Her magic is stronger than mine. And I could have been the only one high wizard out of about 7 billion people, which would be a power trip and a half for me. But knowing that her magic is stronger than mine, I am terrified of this woman. And she tells me again, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And instantly, like a grace from the Holy Spirit, I knew that that was the Mother of God, which is a very strange revelation for a former Baptist to have. We would rather shoot ourselves in the face with a shotgun than say Mother of God. And when I realized it was the Mother of God, Mary showed up. She smiled at me, a smile I knew I did not deserve. I was acutely aware of my 146 assisted abortions. She took me by the hand and she turned me around. And Divine Mercy Jesus was standing behind me. I had no idea what Divine Mercy was. I just know I have these rays of light shooting out of his heart, and they're going around me and over me and under me and through me. And in that instant, I knew I did not sell my soul to the devil when I was 13. I knew that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior. I knew that all my magic, my occult, my New Age, and my Satanism was false. And I knew everything Catholic was truth. And the Blessed Mother told me my job was to help her end abortion. And I opened my hand, and I was back in my store, back in my mall. And this woman, Marianne Wickman, is still talking to me. And she tells me that she is Father Joseph Whalen's personal assistant, that he's the busiest priest she knows. And he's so busy, he doesn't even have time to talk to her. And while she's talking,
I think that Zachary's phone might have gone because he's been frozen for a bit. It went down to audio only. We're almost at 2 hours. Let me just write this down, see if we can get him back. Either he's got a call or his phone's completely gone. Sometimes before your phone goes, it drops the video down to audio, which is what we saw, which is why I wasn't, I know people saying he's frozen. There was nothing we could do about that, I don't think. We'll just give it a little bit, see if he can come back. If he can't, we will set this up for part 2. Put 1 in the chat if you would like us to do a part 2 with Zachary quite soon to keep this going. Put a 2 in the chat if this is all too much for you and you would rather not do a part 2. So, looks like we want a part 2 with Zachary. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. UK with Barbara Boyd, never been on the channel before, talking about the blood sacrifice of the Russian-Ukraine war and the drone swarm in Russia and what might happen next if we're heading for World War III. And then we've got Kit Clarenberg on Friday talking about Keir Starmer's male models appearing in court on Friday. Yeah. And I think this video will take you to the one we did earlier today now when I finish it. So stay tuned if you miss what we did with Murray, the advocate out of Australia today about Virginia's funeral and more about Virginia's husband.